So I would like to welcome to the show my next guest, Mr. Mark Samuels. Look, Mark, actually, I knew of his projects before I even met him. And then I actually hired his daughter as an intern. And she was telling me, oh, my dad does, he does filmmaking and content creation and things like, and I was like, who your daddy is? And she was like, Mark Sam, he has Murder Gardens. I said, that's your dad. First of all, his daughter was one of my best interns ever. Hardworking, great work ethic, very talented writer. So I'm looking forward to see what she becomes. But I was like, yo, we got to connect, me and your dad got it, because I know the project Murder Gardens and all the things. So yeah, he created Murder Gardens. It's a new part of the series coming out, or the movie universe. So without further ado, I want to welcome to the show Mr. Mark Samuels. Hey,
what up, what up, what up? That was like the best introduction ever. I promise I ain't pay her to say that, y'all. You know what I'm saying?
Are you serious? No. Look, first of all, I just wanted to give you, I'm always praising you, for being a
Thank you
great
so
dad,
much.
and just
Thank
Mariah
you,
was
thank you.
amazing. So I wanted to give you your flowers, but also too, like I said, I've been watching you and your work for years, and I was like, who is this behind, Murder Gardens and creating this content and whatever? So
Thank
definitely glad that we were able to connect, Mark.
Yeah, this is long overdue. I feel like this is like 5 years overdue since Murder
It
Gardens 1.
is. Mark, you came on a special day. I revealed my new little cut.
I'm loving it though. I'm loving it, and I'm loving the Tony Braxton voiceover, man. You got something going on now. In the next movie, I'm gonna cast you singing something on stage.
First of all, nah, do the audience ears like that. But Mark, Mark, I want to get in the movie. I want to get in
Right.
one of your films, one of your shows.
Don't
But
worry, don't worry. I got a lot more coming up, and I'm always looking for actors and actresses, especially the ones who can sing. so, so you in there already? You already locked.
I used to act in my church plays. My church home is Jesus People Miami
Right.
in on Miami Gardens, and so
Yep,
they
I
would
know
do
exactly what it is.
Easter
Yep.
and Christmas productions. And I, at one point, many moons ago, I wanted to be an actress child, and so I
Right.
was like, oh, I could start in my church. So I was there, that dream fizzled out. However,
Right.
how you come out with the new Murder Gardens, I was like playing around. I was like, "Oh, you need to put me in the next one," and you were like, "Ooh."
Your viewers done heard it here first. You about to be in a movie real soon. Your acting career about to be reignited all over again. So
Oh man, anything to support our local creators, homegrown talent,
appreciate
of
it.
course, I would do it for you. But let's get into why you're here today, because
Yeah.
you created this amazing universe called Murder Gardens. So, what? Let's start at the beginning. How
Yeah.
did Murder Gardens, the concept, come about?
It's funny you say that. So Murder Gardens actually started off as like a web series. I didn't have a plan on making it a movie in the beginning. My goal was to make it like a 6 episode YouTube series and kind of just put it out there, let the people watch it, let them feel it out and see where I wanted to go next with it. And right when I was done filming everything, I decided to take all those episodes and turn them into a movie. And we
Wow.
found distribution with Maverick Entertainment. That movie ended up being on Peacock and Apple TV and Sling TV and Roku and all these different
Wow.
places, and it just took off. And Murder Gardens 1 did more than I could ever expect the film to do. Like I said, I was expecting it to just go on YouTube, have a couple people watch it, give me some feedback and take it from there. But it turned into a whole thing, an actual feature film, and all the cast and the crew and all the people that were a part of it. It was so many hands involved to make that movie happen that we had to run it back and do a part 2. And that's what led us to Murder Gardens 2. That's how we're here today.
I love it, love it, love it. And so without giving too much away for people who want to know what the show is about,
Yeah.
and I want to we before we get into some of the controversy, I want to get
Right.
into what is the story, what some of the characters, what are we following when we're viewing Murder Gardens,
Yeah.
1 and 2.
Yeah. So Murder Gardens 1 and 2, it's funny, like with a name like Murder Gardens, especially for people who are not familiar with South Florida or Miami or whatever, they may see that name and just think it's a movie about, shooting and killing and robbing and just street stuff. You know what I mean? But ultimately, it's a movie about brotherhood. It's 2 brothers. One brother's named Chase, the other brother's named Rel. Both of these 2 young men lost their mother at an early age. So they both grew up in the foster care system. And as a result of that, they get split. Chase ends up with a great dad who's trying to take him on the right track and have him doing the right thing. Rel kind of grows up in the streets, bounces from foster home to foster home, and these 2 brothers reunite when they become adults. And Rel happens to be in the streets. He's a bit of a kingpin, if you will, and he drags his little brother into this underworld of crime and all this stuff that's happening in Miami. And pretty much it's a tale of decisions and where your decisions can lead you to. You know, the younger brother Chase, he's forced to make a decision on whether he should continue to follow his older brother, end up in the same destruction as him, or should he use his smarts and his brains and kind of go in a different direction. I don't want to give away too much of the ending in part one and part two because it's a
No, no,
lot
no,
of
don't give
plot
it.
twist that
No
happens, but
spoiler.
but yeah, but for the most part, it's a movie about loyalty and brotherhood and the choices that we make and how those choices could indirectly send us in the wrong path, no matter where you're from or what your background is.
I love that, Mark. And you know something else that I love about the intention of your content creation and your filmmaking is you casting local talent. Like I see familiar faces in the
Yeah.
cast. So can you tell us some of the cast members and kind of how that whole casting process went? Like how did you find talent and you're able to find amazing people right here in
Yeah.
South Florida?
Yeah, it's funny you say that. I think I got an eye for talent and kind of just seeing what people can be, especially when it comes to on-screen talent and like filmmaking. All of the actors, well, I won't say all of them, but most of the actors in Murder Gardens 1 didn't have an acting background. These are people that are from Miami, friends and family members and people that I've known over the years from my music days all the way to when I was doing film. And a lot of people just wanted an opportunity to act. And what I was looking for more than acting experience was relatability. I wanted these characters to be relatable. I wanted it to come across authentic and be the true sense of Miami that we're all used to. I didn't want this to come across like some Hollywood production with some guy from LA just putting together a bunch of actors that are faking Miami accents. I wanted our lingo to be real. I wanted our dress code to be real, the accents to be real. And I think those things translated on camera. And that's why that first movie kind of took off the way it did.
Love it. And it did it swept the city. Everybody was talking about Murder Gardens. It was like, what is this thing? You see people talking about it. Like I said, I knew who you were before I knew who you were because of Murder Gardens and its
Right.
success. Like it hit the streets and everybody was talking about it.
Right.
So I want to get into like a little bit of your background because you mentioned music and things like that. Like, so how did you what's your background career-wise? And then how did you get into making content? Like, was Murder Gardens the first thing that you did content-wise? But before you answer that, sometimes I do my two-part questions. So tell me about your background, and then we'll get into the other question.
Man, all right. Well, I'm gonna give you the short story. I'm gonna give you the quick elevator pitch. So I've always been doing things in the entertainment industry. Prior to doing film, I was a recording artist. I was a rapper, King Colossus. Putting out music and kind of repping my neighborhood, which obviously is Miami Gardens, Carol City, Norwood, Norland. Make a long story short, making music videos and shooting music videos is what kind of led me into doing film. And then I eventually started to love film just as much as I love music, if not more. With my music, I was always trying to be a storyteller and tell stories. I didn't want to put out a bunch of ignorant music. I always wanted to be a bit more of a storyteller and kind of like, take some of the experiences that I've had growing up and put those in my music. And film allowed me to do that plus more on a bigger level, So I started falling more in love with film. I eventually started working in television. So I want to say for the past 15 years, I've worked at a variety of different networks from NBC to Univision to Telemundo to Fox to Hearst Television, and all those experiences with all these different networks kind of put me in a position to know how to produce a film and how to produce a project, and definitely taught me about distribution and how to get it out to the outlets that you need to get it to get people to watch your film. Because I know a lot of people that want to make films, and some people actually get their films done, but without knowing how to get the film out there, how to market it, how to get distribution, it kind of falls on like deaf ears, So all of my experiences kind of brought me to where I am today. I think music, especially hip hop music, it gave me the hustle. It gave me the competitive edge to be ready to go up against anybody, because music is a real WWF type of like industry. And I think television gave me the organization and the skill sets that I need to kind of, not just tell these stories, but also get those stories out there and get them on people's televisions.
Love it so much, and I wanted to show that to because sometimes people think like, oh, you may see something that's independent, and they don't know that people have like pedigree, degrees, or experience, years of experience, doing something. So you just didn't wake up one day and start doing this. You actually have a lot of a wealth of knowledge and experience doing this. So was Murder Gardens your first creative project that you produced?
No,
that was yours?
No, actually it wasn't. Murder Gardens was my first feature film. But prior to Murder Gardens, I had already did a few documentaries. I had already did a few short films, and I had already directed a full feature film in New York called Christmas Eve with another studio called CNI Studios. But Murder Gardens was my first feature film that I wrote, directed, and edited from start to finish. Murder Gardens 2 is now my fourth feature film. And then there's another one called Rent Race that's going to be coming out in March of next year. So I've been trying to stay busy, man. I'm trying to, a lot of people, when it comes to film, they feel like, oh, we got to leave and move to LA, or let's move to Atlanta, or go move to New York. I've always been in the mind state of, I want to build Hollywood right here in South Florida. I want to build those opportunities that people leave the city for and build it right here to where we can shoot our movies right here. We can shoot our documentaries right here and bring the industry to us instead of, us trying to go to some of these other cities.
Do you feel like there is growing opportunities for filmmakers and content creators here in South Florida? Or do you feel like, we're still struggling a little bit? Because I know some of those tax credits have not come back to the state of Florida that made it, very lucrative for Hollywood. Everybody remember Bad Boys and all the movies that were shot here in the 90s and early 2000s. So I would love to know your views on like opportunities in the industry. Is it thriving? Is it flat? Like, what is the future of filmmaking and content creation in South Florida in your eyes?
I think in my eyes, and I think in general, filmmaking is at a renaissance period right now where it's only going to get bigger and bigger. I think there was a point in time where you had these gatekeepers that can block the film from getting to the masses, to where you had to go through a studio or you had to go through a certain distribution channel to get your film out there. I think now, you can go direct to consumer. So filmmaking at this point, I think, is at its best stage that it's ever been at for storytellers. If you can get the story out of your head and on the paper, if you can organize a crew, if you can book cast, if you can come up with any kind of a budget to shoot it, you can get your film done. You know what I mean? And now we're at a point where there's nothing really blocking you from getting your film on Tubi or getting it to Amazon or getting it to Peacock. And once you get it on any of those platforms, it's really just a marketing game like anything else. So I know we don't have the tax credits and everything like we used to have. And that's kind of what drove a lot of the market to Georgia and some of these other places. But for independent filmmakers, especially people who are trying to just get their stories out there, get directly to their fans and build a fan base, I think this is the best time ever to be cranking out films. I don't think
even in South Florida.
Even in South Florida, we don't need that green light anymore from a studio. Like, I'm on my fourth feature film now, and I've never worked with a studio on my feature films. And I work at studios, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? So with all that being said, there's nothing really stopping you other than the thought of writing it out, organizing it, and getting it done. I think we're at a good place right now as filmmakers where if you can withstand the brutal environment that it takes to get a movie done, if you can get to the finish line, 9 times out of 10, you can get to your fans or get to some viewers and you can build a fan base. So yeah, I think this is a great time for filmmakers or content creators right now to just keep working, keep creating content and get it out there.
No, I totally agree. And I love that you broke that down, because I do feel like with the opportunities in technology, social media, AI, like you don't have to go to, like what you said, like Hollywood and New York to be able to create content. You can do it if you have that hustle, like you said, to market and do certain things independently. You can have success. I want to go to this question from Anthony Joshua in the comments. Sorry, I know who this is, so I said his full name, but Aunt Josh in the comments. And I thought this was a good question. You often hear Miami is a city of crabs in a barrel. What has been your experience with community support, Mark?
It's funny, man. So I've experienced Miami not just as a resident who's been here all my life, but from the entertainment side of things. I've seen the music industry in Miami and I've seen the film industry in Miami. I think the music industry has been a lot more of the crab in the bucket mentality. When I was a recording artist, it was a lot harder to get artists to want to collab with each other, or to get labels to want to work together, or to get promoters to work together. Like, everyone's fighting for the, for a piece of the pie. But I feel like when it comes to this film stuff, collaboration is a must. I don't get the same crab in a bucket mentality. Like, film directors are always willing to work together. Actors are always working together. Production companies can work together. I think film brings a different kind of, at least for me, it's brought a different kind of unity and collaboration that I didn't really necessarily experience with music. I look at Murder Gardens 2, for example. That cast is literally about 100 people, right? And this is an independent film. So to have 100 people, believe in your vision and ride with you and show up every day and put in their best effort and come on set prepared, like, all of those things I don't think I would have ever seen in the music industry. It's hard to get 100 people to even show up at your show,
Mm.
much less to get 100 people to come on set for weeks straight, you know? So
Yeah.
I think film is just, I don't know, it's just a different collaboration. I think I've done my best to build a tribe or a community with the people that I've done films with, to where we all support each other. If I put out a marketing video for one of the actors in Murder Gardens, all of the actors in Murder Gardens are going to support it. And so is the cast, and so is the crew. And it's like, I feel like this is a project that we all collectively own. Even though Mark Samuels might have written it, there's so many people who played a role in getting it done that everyone feels like it's theirs as well. And I love that, you know, and I think with music it's harder to accomplish that. So to answer Anthony's question, the crab in the bucket syndrome just doesn't feel as strong when it comes to making movies and creating content in Miami.
I can attest to that, because I've seen that just from like creating like news content and information, that I don't see, crab in the bucket mentality in that regard. And I can see that expanded through different type of creatives in that way, because like you said, it's more collaborative, it's more collective. And I'm actually happy to hear that, because a lot of times you think like Atlanta and the Detroits and the DCs, these are the places where Black people are thriving and working together. But I'm glad that you're giving us a real world example of us working together. And a question I wanted to ask you, because I heard, like, of course, we know Atlanta, between Tyler Perry all the way down to the independent filmmakers, and Detroit is really huge when it comes to independent filmmaking as well. I would love to know your thoughts on like the Tubi industry, the independent Amazon films. Like, do you feel like Miami is going to, make their mark in that world? What have you seen, in regards to the industry and filmmakers and people making content down here in South Florida?
Well, to piggyback off what you said, Detroit, I think, got a grip on the independent filmmaking game right now. And a lot of that, in my opinion, is kind of what we just talked about. I see a lot of the guys in Detroit and women just working together collectively, different directors and producers and production companies. I see that same thing happening here in Miami. I think as far as the Tubi market is concerned, there's a cult following when it comes to Tubi. There's like certain people where that's all they watch now. Like they're going to Tubi before Netflix, or they're going to Tubi before Apple TV. Like I was just in a meeting the other day looking at the streaming numbers, and Tubi, even though some people make jokes about Tubi movies, they're up there in like the top 3 of streaming sites. They're putting in more subscribers and viewers than like Disney Plus and like Paramount Plus. So Tubi is a big deal. And I think the more filmmakers in South Florida unite and work together to tell our stories, I think we can have that same exact thing as Detroit. I think the only thing we've been lacking a little bit here in South Florida, and it's starting to change now, and I love to see it, is just more Black filmmakers coming out of South Florida telling our story. I want to be definitely one of the people leading the way in that. There's a lot of other people down here doing the same thing, but I think the more that us collectively as Black filmmakers put our stories to the forefront, we'll be right up there with Detroit and Atlanta and everything else, but it's just, there is a lack of Black films coming out of South Florida, and I want to see that change. And I'm doing my part to see it change, and I think other filmmakers will too.
Thank you for breaking that down. And that kind of leads me to my next question. Mark, are you producing other filmmakers or screenwriters projects? Like, is that a part of the trajectory of what you're doing, or are you already doing it?
No, I'm not doing it yet, but that is part of the trajectory. I know I can't write everything myself, so that's not the goal at all. Plus, I want to, like I said, I love collaborating with people in this film space. Even when I'm on set, even with like a Murder Gardens, I may have written that script, but there's times that we come on set and the actor's like, hey, I want to try it this way, or I might switch the line to that and see how that goes. And I'm always open to those things, because the more you invite other people's ideas in, it opens up that word to where now it's not just my vision. Now it's going to be relatable to 100,000 more people, as opposed to me just writing it. So I definitely want to work with other writers as well, other filmmakers as well, and just keep telling our stories, especially if it's a story that, is unique and puts us as a people in a positive light, or puts us in a position to tell our story in a way that hasn't been told before, or even if it has been told before, as long as it's unique, entertaining, and it's dope, hell yeah, I'm definitely all about that for sure.
Well, then let's talk offline, because I wrote a script and I'm trying to get it greenlit.
Let's get it. I know you had a script waiting.
What journalist has not tried to write something?
Know, right?
Okay, like we all want to, because we're creative, so we like writing, not just nonfiction, but at least for myself, I like writing fiction. But we could talk about that, and it's so interesting that Arnisha Sweet Butter is in the comments, because we were talking about producing something before as well. So nice. I'm glad to see that you're building this infrastructure for creatives here in South Florida. So we definitely need to have a couple of conversations
Let's
offline.
do
But
it. That's
anything I
a
could do to
must.
support you, I would love that. Look, before I let you go, let people know where they could watch Murder Gardens 2, anything that we haven't discussed, or any, who, what, when, where, and why. Let this is your chance to plug all of that stuff. So yeah, let them know, Mark, where they could watch Murder Gardens 2.
Yeah, Murder Gardens 2 is currently streaming on Tubi, Amazon Prime, Fandango, Vudu, and a few other platforms. Murder Gardens 1 is on Peacock, Roku, Sling TV, Samsung TV. It's pretty much everywhere. If you Google Murder Gardens 1, it's on every platform except Netflix and Hulu. So it's pretty easy to find. And same thing with Murder Gardens 2. And before I go, I just want to kind of reiterate that I would just love to see more filmmakers, especially the Black filmmakers down here in South Florida, collaborate. Let's do some films together. Let's make these projects bigger and bigger and bigger, and do the same thing Detroit is doing, same thing LA been doing. I feel like as far as cities are concerned, Miami has everything that a filmmaker would want to tell their story. You know what I mean? The only thing we're missing is the tax credits. You know what I mean? But other than that, as far as the ambiance of the city, the people in the city, the look of it, I mean, come on, we can tell so many stories coming from South Florida. I think we just got to keep collaborating and push.
And you know what I've heard is some municipalities have tried to stand in the gap a little bit. So they have different tax credit. I know the Broward County and Dade County, I think City of Miami Gardens and North Miami, if I'm not mistaken. But there are certain cities, if you film there may be some tax exempts. Exemptions or benefits to shooting there. So even though the state may not have those tax exemptions, there are different municipalities that have them. So that's
we
something
need to
keep
get that over here in
mind.
Miami Gardens. That's what we need, and we need a film program here too, man. Something that
Oh, so we don't have it in Miami Gardens.
No, not that I know of. I mean,
Oh, I
maybe
thought
it
we
is happening.
did.
I don't know about it, but yeah, just something that I remember when I was a kid. Like in middle school, I went to know in the middle, and if somebody would have put a camera in front of me back then, or even told me about some of the roles and positions that you can do in television and movies, I'd have been doing this since like 13. But I had to go through the school of hard knocks and go learn it the hard way. You know what I mean? So yeah, we can make that easier for young Black boys and women, growing up in this neighborhood. I feel like that's a no-brainer too.
No, that may be something that we could talk about offline too, because maybe that's something
Absolutely.
we could get done. Wait, side note, before I let you go real quick.
Yep.
Now, when you first dropped Murder Gardens, some of the powers that be did not like the title, because that was like a nickname that unfortunately white media was calling Miami Gardens. They were calling it Murder Gardens. Did you hear that criticism, and what was your thoughts? Or what are your thoughts around that? I would love to know why I got you on here.
I did. I heard that criticism. There was a Channel 10 did a story on Murder Gardens 1 the weekend that it was dropping, and I know they interviewed Oliver Gilbert at that time, and I think a few other people from the city, and they weren't too happy about the name. But one thing I do want to say is that, well, I didn't come up with the name Murder Gardens, as you just mentioned. You know what I mean? But two, at that particular time, the reason that name was chosen was because
Wait, Mark, I can't hear you. Can y'all hear Mark? Wait. Can you hear Mark? Alexis? Oh, sorry. Let me know if can y'all hear me? Oh no, I can't hear him at all. No, and I feel like he's saying some good stuff.
It wasn't to glorify violence, it wasn't to glorify murder, but it was to glorify something that was authentic and real to the residents of Miami Gardens. So I think the name made media pay attention. Yep.
I hate to make you went out for a few seconds, and I feel like you was real.
Okay.
So they were able to hear me, but I think your mic went out a little bit.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yeah. So yeah, you're back now. Now. So I would say just real quick, if you just want to give us feedback on
no problem. One thing about me, I love to talk, so that's not a problem. No, but what I was saying is picking the name Murder Gardens, I didn't create the name Murder Gardens. It was already out there. You know what I mean? So using that as the name of the film, I knew it was going to be something that would spark conversation. And I feel like the only way you can bring change or even start to talk about change is through conversations. I don't think straying away from the name and trying to hide the name is how you get rid of it. I think sometimes you just address these situations head on and you just talk about them, no matter how uncomfortable the situation may be or the conversation may be. I think using that name as the name of the film gave me an opportunity to speak about the name Murder Gardens and what I thought about it and what I think about it as from a resident standpoint. The other thing I want to say real quick too is I understand that they may have thought the name was gonna glorify violence in Miami Gardens, but if you watch that first movie and even the second movie, it wasn't about robberies and shootings and killings or anything like that. Like I said, it's a movie about two brothers. And even in Murder Gardens 2, most of the movie is not even in Miami Gardens. They just happen to be from Miami Gardens. But I'm filming in Fort Lauderdale. I'm filming in Little Haiti. I'm filming in Little Liberty City, Overtown. The whole South Florida is getting highlighted. So it's not technically just in Miami Gardens per se. And last but not least, I think I was qualified to use that name for the film because I'm not some Hollywood producer coming in from Los Angeles trying to capitalize on the neighborhood. I live in Miami Gardens. I've been here all my life. I own property here. My kids have gone to school here. I went to school here. I think I'm more qualified to speak about the city than some people who work for the city. So with all of that being said, you know, it was kind of hard to come at me like I was trying to create something negative for the same city that I love, that I grew up in, that my kids also grew up in. You know what I mean? So it was kind of hard to spin the narrative the way they probably would have wanted to spin it if I was a director from somewhere else.
I appreciate you breaking that down, and I understand like your perspective of it, because I do remember some of the controversy, but I think I even read, you know, you talking about this somewhere or like at the time. And so I'm glad that you broke that down, and it was like you just kind of piggyback off of something that was popular at the time. And you're like, you know, let's make a fictional world around this. So kudos to you and your creativity and what you're doing. And, you know, everybody ain't got to love what you're doing. Everybody, you know, but if they watch it, as long as we get them watching and talking about it, that's all that matters. Okay.
That's all that matters. Exactly. And then I look at how many people in that movie that are from Miami who are going to get opportunities and get a situation to go move on and do bigger movies. And I think sometimes we focus too much on the negative. Like, no matter what the title of the movie is, look at all the positive things coming out of that movie, all the opportunities, all the people that can eat off of it and go live their dreams and go live their life, you know? So I think those are the things we should pay more attention.
Wait, Mark, your mic just went out again. Can you hear me, Mark? Because your mic went out. Yeah. Can you hear me? Are we good?
Okay, now I'm back. Yeah,
you're back. It's good. It's good. Look, Mark, I'm so glad you came on. Look, come back again. Your next initiatives, films. You're now a friend of the show. You've been a friend of the show anyway, honorary, because Mariah's my girl. But definitely,
I'm bringing Mariah next time I come on the show. I'm bringing
her
on too.
Please. Oh my gosh, I would love that. Oh my gosh,
she's a mini TV producer now. She's ready.
Yes, bring her. But definitely kudos to you. Congratulations to you on the premiere of your next feature film. We're going to be watching it, and I think I want to do a review on it. So if you're okay with that, I want to do a review on the Murder One.
I definitely want to hear your thoughts. I definitely need the review for sure. And let's definitely talk offline. We got to create some kind of film program for these kids out here.
Yes. So you got my cell. Let's talk. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I appreciate you. Y'all go out and watch Murder Gardens 2 and 1. It's on Tubi and a bunch of streaming platforms. Go to his page. You get all that information. And I see my next guest is in the background. So we going to keep it rolling on the show. Thank you so much, Mark. I appreciate you.
Thank you. All right now.
Bye. Oh gosh, Mark was amazing. Yes, he already did the premiere. And so you guys definitely can get that information. It's on his page, and I was sharing it. I'll put it real quick on the screen, but if you go to his page, it's there, and it has all the information. Murder Gardens 2 now streaming.